All right, it's Thursday, February 29th. I'm Aaron Whited, and welcome to The Lodge. So today I have a fellow outdoor enthusiast who's covered quite a bit more ground than I have. His name's Stan Courtnay. Stan, thank you so much for coming on the podcast with me.
Oh, thanks for having me, man. I'm excited to talk a little bit.
Heck yeah. Stan and I met through a mutual friend. His name's Wayne. Wayne's a great guy. But anyway, we met through a mutual friend, and I've followed him on social media and just kind of see all his awesome outdoor adventures. So I figured I'd bring him on and we could talk a little bit about some stuff that I'm not super familiar with. So I got to ask this right off the bat. Dan, what's your favorite game to hunt?
Oh gosh.
I know it's a loaded question.
It's definitely Western big game, and it's either going to be elk or mule deer, which is what everybody thinks of. I'll say this, whenever anybody asks me that, my favorite hunt that I can do on a yearly basis is early season deer. And the reason that I love it so much is early season mule deer and like Sitka blacktail, they live up in the high country. They live on the very tops of the mountains. The weather's still normally pretty nice. Everything's real green up there, and the bucks are just up there eating all the green stuff and getting fat before the rut hits and the winters are tough out there. So I love it because it's almost more like a mountain goat hunt or just country that most people don't think of high up in the Alpine, but you're deer hunting. And that's probably my favorite hunt. So I don't know if I can say that mule deer, or I like mule deer hunting more than elk because it's just a different type hunt. But my favorite hunt that I can do on a regular basis, yearly basis, is early season mule deer.
Right on. Now, when you say up in the Alpine, now, I know that me and a lot of people listening to this podcast here on the East Coast, when you start talking about land like that, there's not a lot of familiarity there. Kind of describe that landscape a little bit.
Okay, so out west, it really can depend on elevation, but your Alpine is the areas where trees stop growing and it just turns into, grass and rocks up high. So in Colorado,
So I don't need to bring a tree stand. Okay.
No tree stand.
I'm just joking.
Yeah, in Colorado, your Alpine line might be like 12,000 feet, 11,500, which is getting up there pretty good. On Prince of Wales Island in Alaska, I've been there a couple times hunting Sitka blacktail, and that's an island. So your Alpine level, I don't even know. It's like under 2,000 feet before you get to the area where there aren't trees. And so it really just depends on the area. But when I say Alpine, that just means the area where it goes from heavily forested to no trees because of, I don't know what the difference is between one state and another. It's just where the trees stop and it's grass,
Gotcha. I got you. That's okay. Golly. So like around, I'm trying to think of anywhere around on the East Coast that has anything that looks like that. Probably the only place I've ever been even remotely close was like Klingman's Dome in Tennessee, where you could actually start to see a change. Like once you got up there to the actual piece, it kind of went from big trees to like not really a lot of trees.
Right. And I've never really even seen anywhere like that on the East Coast. I hunt the mountains here in South Carolina a decent bit. I mean, not like a ton, but because it's a couple hours from my house. But I hunt it some, and there's nothing, no Alpine that I know of around on the East Coast, or in the areas I've been, at least, I should say.
Gotcha. Well, so you also mentioned elk hunting. That's something that's definitely on my list of things to do. I've started looking into the different opportunities and different stuff like that. I've got a few buddies that have gone out and done stuff. What's elk hunting about? Like, what draws you into it so much?
Oh man, elk are just cool. When you think of the animal of the West, most people think of elk, and when people say I want to go hunting out west, most people aren't talking about mule deer, at least from the east anyway. Mule deer have a lot bigger following in the western part of the country than back east, but everybody wants to elk hunt. They're just unique. It's like they're like a deer on steroids. I mean, a big bull is going to weigh 600-700 pounds, and you gotta have it all together to get them out of there, because it can be some serious work. But I don't know. It's hard to explain it. They're just cool animals. They live in cool country. I don't know. It's hard to explain if you've never experienced it. It's a fun hunt. And they live in such varying terrain. Like elk live all the way out in California and down in Nevada and Arizona and New Mexico where it's desert. And then they live all the way up into like British Columbia in, Montana and Washington, and even Southeast Alaska, where it's just as vastly different as it can be. They can live wherever and they can thrive wherever. It's pretty unique. They're a pretty unique animal.
And they're freaking huge.
Yeah.
Like compared to East Coast stuff, like they're huge.
Yeah. I've killed my fair share of them now, and you get kind of a little more used to how big they are. But if you're only ever shot a whitetail, and here in South Carolina, you shoot a 180, a 190, 200 pound whitetail, that's a really big buck here in South Carolina. But I've killed multiple elk that I know are pushing 700 pounds in New Mexico. And when you only ever walked up on, 180 pound buck, 190 pound bucks, and then you walk up on a 700 pound bull, it changes your perspective a bit.
I can 100% understand that. Well, That's just like me going from here to, I've gone to Arkansas quite a few times to deer hunt.
Right.
And it's a double take situation.
Yeah.
It's like you really want to call your buddy and be like, hey, do y'all have like horses out here? Oh no, that's the deer. Okay. All right, cool. Thank you.
Yeah. I've actually hunted whitetail in Arkansas before. Arkansas is like the hidden gem for whitetail hunters that people don't know about. So
you got that right. And their season goes into February. So yeah.
They have some huge bucks out there. And I tell people that everybody wants to go to Kansas and Iowa and Illinois and everywhere. And that's fine. They got big bucks. But if you want to go somewhere that doesn't have the pressure, have a chance of killing a legit killing a booner, maybe, you need to go to Arkansas.
Well, tell you what, let's keep that here on the podcast. Let's not tell too many other people and mess up Arkansas.
No, everybody just wants to go out there and shoot the ducks, man. But they got, on the eastern half of the state, they have phenomenal deer hunting. If you can find some property or there's public out there, you can hunt public too, but some great hunting out there.
Well, and talking about public and different places hunting, different stuff like that, I'll tell you this, and this is kind of switching gears a little bit. I've started getting more into wanting to go on the muley hunt, wanting to go on the elk hunt, and I've got the Onyx kind of elite subscription, which comes with like hunting pool and different stuff like that. Thank God for those things. But the more that I've dove into looking at the different hunting opportunities and stuff in these western states, it's nuts. Some of the regulations to me are just, it's wild, like as far as how to even enter the draws, get drawn, or basically how to go about it. It seems like if you're just getting started now, it seems like the odds are stacked against you something crazy.
Well, they are and they aren't. There's an insane amount of opportunity out there, and all you ever hear about, unfortunately, I shouldn't say all, it seems like all you hear about on social media and everything like that is people just like to talk about the negative. And I understand that that's how a lot of people are programmed, but there's a ton of positive, and there's so much opportunity out west. And whether you want to hunt deer, elk, or bears, man, there's a ton of opportunity out west to hunt black bears. You just kind of have to decide that you're going to do it, and you're going to get after it. You're going to learn everything you can and go out there and give it your all. I use Go Hunt. I don't use Hunting Pool. I have an Onyx Elite, membership and all that, but Go Hunt has been what I've used forever for all my hunting odds, which is, if you don't know what Go Hunt is, it's just a Western website that breaks down draw odds and all that based on every species for every state, for every unit. You can literally look at it.
I think I've seen their YouTube videos and stuff.
Right. So Brady Miller and I think the other fellow's name is Lorenzo. They own Go Hunt. They started it up. Oh gosh, I don't know. I've been a member for 6 or 7 years, and they've been around for probably 10. But it's a really good, company, really good website. They're super pro, public land and do-it-yourself hunting, and there's insane amount of information on there. And I will literally go, look at specific units and break it down specific units in specific states to try to find the best rods and stack everything in my favor to get as many tags. And, I don't really get a lot of quote unquote good tags. I'm more motivated to get a tag and then just kind of do my best to outwork the other guys and punch that tag. But if all you want to do is, if your goal is to go elk hunting, the best thing I can tell you is, or tell anyone that might be listening, is just soak up every bit of information you can and read the regulations on the state website. I tell everybody that. I get people ask me all the time, I'm like, read the regulations to start with, and
you get it from the source.
Right. You'd be amazed at people that are just like, oh, I don't, what's the rule on that? And I'm like, it's in that little book. All you got to do is read that book and they'll tell you. And then you're not asking some guy on Facebook what the rule is. You know from the source. And just decide what you want to hunt, decide how you want to hunt it, because you can muzzleloader hunt, you can archery hunt, you can rifle hunt. Some states allow you to crossbow hunt. Once you decide what animal you want to hunt, what weapon you want to hunt, then you can kind of narrow down the state, because, your odds of getting a rifle tag in Arizona is vastly, vastly different than your odds of getting an archery tag in Arizona. Like if you wanted to just go to Arizona and deer hunt, you can just buy a deer tag in January and go deer hunt archery. But if you want to deer hunt with a rifle in Arizona, say during, I don't know, for mule deer, your odds of drawing a tag in most of the state is very low. So the weapon that you pick is just as important as the animal you want to hunt when you're doing your research.
I got you. Well, and like for me and for most of the people that I know, I have, rifle set up, bow set up, shotgun set up. I actually don't have a muzzleloader, which is odd. But like, it's one of those things that I've never, in most places, like so Virginia, where I grew up, like once the season opens, you can bow hunt. And that was just kind of like, it's really hard for me to get the bow out of my hand. Now, I will say I love deer hunting. I love deer hunting with a buckshot. That's a ton of fun. Probably killed the most deer with a rifle, but it's definitely one of those things to where it's like, I would love the out west aspect with the rifle of, the 400, 500 yard shot, just because I practice that. I have a lot of fun, long range shooting and stuff with the old 300 Win Mag. That's a good time. But
yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, yeah, I do the same thing. I have a 300, and it's crazy out west though. When you get up, you see an animal that those distances can really fool you out there, because there have been times when I have thought an animal was a long ways away and it wasn't, and there have been times I thought an animal was within range and they weren't. So even if you can reach out there 500, 600, 700 yards, it still is it's still a challenge at times. Everybody thinks if you say you can shoot 500 yards that it's all easy. It's just not, because the biggest elk I've ever killed, the first time I saw him, he was like 2.5 miles away. So it's just a different game out there. Yeah.
So living here in South Carolina for as long as I have and growing up in Virginia, there's no chance. 2 miles away, you're not seeing squat.
Correct. Yeah. Well, here's the way I look at it. If you can have success in Virginia is probably similar to South Carolina. Most of your shots, unless you're field hunting, are 100 or maybe probably 80 yards or less, but out there, you can see places you can see miles. Like Lane, our mutual friend, he and I went to Colorado this past year, and we elk hunted, and I found a group of elk. Our first night we were in there, I think it was our first night, I glassed up a group of elk, and there were a couple good bulls in there, and they were probably a mile and a half at least away. And we had to figure out how to get around, and on private, we had to figure out how to get around the backside and hike in on public and hunt them on the public side of the private. But I knew a guy that had hunted that area before, and he gave me tips on an area over there. But also, like, a big thing for us was when we found those elk and we saw them. And if we hadn't been able to see, a mile and a half, we wouldn't have known those bulls were over there.
I got you. So basically, I've always heard that. I've always heard that the glass out there is about as important as the weapon.
Yeah, I mean, you need to let your eyes do the walking, is how some people say it. And I mean, obviously, you still have to get to places to glass from and kind of know the terrain you're looking at and the elevation you want to focus on. But you're very rarely, unless you're hunting some real thick stuff like here, you're not going to just bump into an animal. You're going to see that animal from it might be 200 yards away or it might be 2 miles away. You're going to figure out how to get it. Well, you're going to figure out if it's on public or private, because sometimes, they're kind of mashed in there together. And if that animal is on a property, public or private, that you have access to hunt legally, and you got to figure out how to get over there and kill them, and how to get them out to the truck once you do kill them.
I feel like, so I was always told growing up that, once you pull that trigger, that's the beginning of the process.
That's right.
So it definitely sounds like that out west, that once you pull the trigger or let go of that arrow, then it's definitely the beginning of a whole entire new situation.
Yeah, and I mean, that's a fact, and it really is a fact if you hunt solo. I hunt solo a decent bit. I usually make plans. I get a tag, and then I have a few friends that I trust, and I'm always like, anybody's welcome to go with me, any of my friends. And sometimes I'll get people to go, and sometimes I don't. But I don't ever make my plans based on another person, because I don't know, people are famous for backing out and stuff, and I'm not going to not go on my trip. So if you're hunting solo, you really got to know what you're doing in terms of packing out elk, because it can take you a minimum of 3 loads and a maximum of 5 loads, depending on the size of the bull, just that many trips to the truck. So if you're back in there 3-4 miles and you're by yourself, those miles start adding up, especially on 80-pound packs, 100-pound packs, something like that.
Holy crap. Well, yeah. I went ahead and started the gear investment process.
Yeah.
I've got a Kafaru, it's the Kafaru Duplex Light frame. Okay. And then I went with the Striker XL.
Okay.
Like as far as the pack piece goes. And just because I'm a little crazy and I guess a little glutton for punishment, I will, around my neighborhood, and then whenever I go on like a short hike or something, I will I've got 100-pound sandbag, basically.
Yep.
I'll put in it and kind of go to town with it. And yep. on decently flat ground or paved road or whatever,
yeah,
after a little bit starts to get heavy, but it doesn't feel like anything crazy. I couldn't imagine.
Yeah.
Like I bet it gets pretty nuts when you're coming out of some steep stuff.
Yeah, sidewalks are a breeze. I'll tell you the best training you can do, and I've told other guys this, and I know a good many guys that actually train like this now, is if you have a gym membership, your cardio should be on the Stairmaster, and that's almost it. Like, climb stairs, a lot of stairs regularly, because that's the best training you can do. You're going up. You're not going to go up any mountains that are steeper than stairs. And if you can climb stairs for long periods of time, then you can climb mountains. So
I have never really thought about it that way. Like I've always. Oh, go ahead.
I would say I got a buddy. His name's Ben, and he is from South Carolina, and then he moved out to Texas, and he spent some time in Colorado, and he and we've actually only met in person once or twice, but he really loves Western hunting, and I've turned him onto that, and he climb stairs just as hard as I do now. And he told me, we were texting the other day, and he's like, man, climbing the stairs at the gym is a game changer when you get out west. And it really is. Like, if you just run, like, that's awesome cardio and everything, but you're not going to be running on the mountain most likely. You might have to cover ground real quick to get in position to shoot, but you're not going to be running. What you're going to be doing is climbing. And if you put that backpack on, which I do, and you climb stairs, that's the best real life training you can do if you don't live in a place that has mountains that you can get on.
Gotcha. So basically, if we here can't go to Paris Mountain like every day, every couple times a week, and friggin' climb, what is that big loop they have there with the really steep side?
Oh, I don't know. I know what you're talking about. I got a buddy that lives right there at Paris Mountain, but
it's like the Sulphur Springs Trail or something like that. If you can't go hit that thing at least a couple times a week, you're saying go to the gym, hit the Stairmaster.
Yeah, I probably climb stairs at the gym at least 4 days a week. I climb usually for 27 minutes because I get a 30-minute lunch break. So as long as I can get in my truck and get out in my 30 minutes, I'm good. Just get on there and literally go most of the time I go as hard as I can go for 27 minutes.
Heck yeah, man. That I'm picturing in my head whenever you come walking in with probably some sort of like rucksack kind of deal, you go hit the machine. Everybody's probably like, yep, there he is, Stan's here.
Yeah, I have done it. The last year or two, I haven't used my pack as much. I had an 80-pound sandbag that I would carry, and now my legs are pretty conditioned, and I don't carry the pack and climb with the pack as much anymore when I'm training. I just get on it and go. But I have done it plenty of times. There were actually a couple of people, like usually older guys in there, that they would be like, oh, you don't have your backpack today, for a while there. But once you kind of built it up and know what you're in for out west, I just get on the stairs and go now. I don't wear the pack most of the time, but you definitely can do it.
That's cool, man. That's cool. Like that's definitely something I'm now going to look into. I've always tried to go and find, so I'm a high school administrator, and we have our cross country trail that goes around campus. So I've been putting on the backpack and hitting and going through that. Well, the real steep part is we're South Carolina, right? The real steep part is only maybe, 100 yards, but it's steep. It gets pretty steep, but it definitely, the Stairmaster thing, that would just be steep and on you the whole friggin' time.
Yeah. Yep. It works.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm just saying it works. It definitely works.
If you were going, all right, so let's use me as an example. And I know from seeing the different stuff on kind of my hunting apps and different stuff like that, I know that some of the tag season has already passed by and all that. If you were looking to head out west to elk hunt, what would you do if you were me?
This year, or when do you want to go?
Let's use next year. Let's go to next year as an example.
Okay, 1 year. So what I would do is I would figure out what your budget is, how much you can spend on applying in different states. And then if you don't want to go the application route, there's only a couple of states you can go to and just hunt, depending on the weapon you want to use. And that's Colorado. Colorado still has over-the-counter tags for archery and second and third rifle, which honestly, from what I'm hearing and what I'm reading online, I think that's probably going away here very soon. So that's not going to be an option here in the near future, I don't think. But a lot of things, one of the things people don't know about Colorado, well, some people know, but a lot of Eastern guys don't know, is they're like, oh, I can go to Colorado and it's over the counter, okay? Which is, for people that don't know what I'm saying, over the counter just means you can just buy a tag, just like you were deer hunting in South Carolina or Virginia. You can just go to Walmart and you can buy your elk tag. If you look at the draw odds, though, there are a number of units that you can draw first rifle tags or muzzle loader tags by just applying. So you could buy a Colorado elk point this year. I don't remember how much it is. It's probably, I honestly don't remember. It's probably $50 or $100. Okay, buy a point this year, and next year you could apply for one of those first rifle seasons tags, which Colorado has 4 rifle seasons. They don't just have a rifle season. They have a first, a second, a third, and a fourth rifle season. And they also have an archery. Archery is in September, and then they also have a muzzleloader season, which is the second week of September. It takes place when the archery hunt is going on, but you can use a muzzleloader. And then those first, second, third, fourth rifle tags in Colorado. First rifle is usually the second or third week of October, depending on the year, because their dates rotate around a 5-year schedule. And then every week and a half, the next season comes, or every 2 weeks or so, the next season comes in. So, if you have that first rifle tag, which is what I would recommend, you would have that hunt from about, I don't know what it is for 2 years from now, but it'd probably be from about October 15th through the 23rd or 4th. It's like 8 or 9 days. And you can draw a lot of those units with no points or 1 point. And the reason that I like hunting draw tags over the counter tags is because then I know how many people I'm competing against. And
gotcha. Okay.
But on the flip side, some people like doing the over the counter hunt because then they can move around more. But what I like to do is I pick a unit based on what I'm looking for, public land or number of tags, all that stuff. And say I pick, I don't know, some random unit. We'll say like, I don't know, unit 100. Okay. I don't even know what unit 100 is, but let's say you're going to hunt unit 100 and there's 100 tags. Then you know that you're only competing against 100 people. And usually when you look at that 100 people, 20% of those people probably are just weekend warriors that are local guys. So you got a Monday through Friday when you're down to about 80 people. And another 10% of those guys are just going to road hunt. They're going to ride roads and look for elk right there beside the roads. A lot of people out west do that. So now I'm down to competing against 70 guys. And another 10% are probably only going to hunt within a mile of the road because they don't want to have to pack that elk out. So now I'm down to competing against like 60 guys. And then there's going to be 5 or 10% that something just comes up, life happens, and they can't hunt. They just aren't able to go. So now I'm really only competing against 50 guys in that whole unit. So that's all stuff I look at, and that's what I would recommend anyone that's wanting to go out there, you or whomever, that pick a unit that meets all the qualifications, make sure that you can draw it with 1 point or no point. And first rifle season is the first time anybody's going to be out there with a rifle hunting elk. So they haven't been getting banged at for a month while they run all over the mountains. And sometimes that first rifle season, depending on the year, there's on the tail end of the rut. So some of the bulls might still be bugling, and that can help you find them a little bit.
This is sounding more and more like turkey hunting.
And elk hunting during the rut is similar to turkey hunting. The hunt that Wayne and I went on this year, I was able to get a return tag in Colorado, which people can draw tags in Colorado, and if they're not able to go on the hunt, then they can return the tag. And then Colorado sells those tags once a week. They go on sale, first come, first serve, and I was able to buy one of those tags. I called Wayne. I was like, hey, man, Wayne loves calling elk, and he was like, you get a elk tag in Colorado, and I can, during the rut, and I can call him. I want to come. I was like, okay, cool. So we went out there, and by the way, he's really good at it. he can really call, but it's super similar to turkeys. Like some days, I think I killed my bull on like day 4 or something like that, and they bugled a little bit one day, and then you'd hear a couple bugles, and then that one morning we woke up and they were screaming their heads off, like all over the place. And you just got one fired up just like you would an old big gobbler. And he came in ready to fight, and that was all she wrote.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a good time.
That's awesome. Well, so that's something I've heard about, but never really knew. Never really knew until like this past year. Excuse me. Sorry. Never really knew until this past year when I started looking at the different hunt app stuff about the return tags. Right. But that's an opportunity for like later to get drawn, sort of.
Right. And not every state does that. I think Idaho might let some tags get turned back in. I think Montana, you can turn tags back in, but you can't buy them. They send them out as people that are like, what would you call it? The alternates. They send them out to alternates.
Gotcha.
New Mexico, you cannot return tags. But Colorado, you can. And the way Colorado does it is you can return that tag and you can either get your money back or you can get your points back. And those are two options. You can't get both. You can have one or the other. And every week, I think they go on sale on Wednesday at 1 p.m. our time. It's 11 a.m. their time. And on Tuesday, they'll release a preview list. So you can open that and you can look at the tags that are available. And so you know kind of what you want to go for on Wednesday. And then on Wednesday, the tags go a lot of times really fast. I mean, like really fast. But if you're consistent with it and you try every Wednesday, and you pick a unit, if you pick those units that are really, really good, you're not going to get that tag. There's too much demand for it. But if you pick, easier tags that were easier to draw, like the tag I got was either a 0 point or a 1 point muzzleloader tag. It wasn't a highly desired unit, but I just wanted the tag and I wanted to go elk hunting in Colorado, and I had some open dates and I was like, I'm going to keep trying until I got it. And it took, oh gosh, I don't know. It's probably like the 6th week or something, maybe longer. And, until I was finally able to secure that tag and be able to plan the hunt.
This sounds like Colorado, like Department of Natural Resources, sound like they took a page out of the Ticketmaster playbook.
Yeah. Colorado Parks. So it's out there. They don't have a DNR. It's called Parks and Wildlife. And the Colorado, their Parks and Wildlife makes a killing off of hunting. Like, I don't know what the numbers are, but they make so much money, man.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Shoot, well, like that's nuts. I've seen the state map of Colorado, and it's showing kind of the breakdown with all these different units. There's some units that are huge, and some units that are like, wow, that's like 5 feet across is what it looks like. And then there's just a bunch of stuff there mixed with a little bit of private land kind of sprinkled out through there with it.
Yeah.
Is there an area of Colorado like that you think? Is there an area of Colorado you think just from looking at it that's like, okay, you could probably easier get this side, like the western side of the state or the eastern side of the state? Is there like an area?
So the western side is where like 98% of the public land is, and that's where all the biggest elk population is too. Colorado has the largest elk population of any state in the West by a pretty significant margin. For right now, they just introduced wolves, which is a whole nother podcast, but they have a huge population of elk, and it's all in the western half of the state. And the western half of the state is really, really, really good. I mean, there's a ton of public land. The things you got to be careful are there are a few cities that are right there on the range where the mountains start. And you got Denver and you got Boulder and Colorado Springs. And a lot of times those units that are right beside the cities, they get more pressure from hiking and biking and camping, non-hunters and hunters. So those units often are easier to get because they're not as desirable because there are more people in them. And so I try not to get units right there beside cities just because I want to limit the people I'm going to see and pressure. But in terms of areas to hunt, like I shot a mule deer in Colorado this year too. I got a return mule deer tag, and I shot a nice buck out there. And I was hunting southern Colorado, and that bull I shot with Wayne, we were in northern Colorado. I mean, west of in the mountains, but we were at a long ways from each other. I mean, way long ways apart.
Gotcha. Okay. That's all just fascinating. So living here where we do, you just load up in the truck, get a buddy with you, tag team the drive, and haul tail.
Yeah, like I said, I don't always go with somebody. Like my mule deer hunt I did solo this year, so I built a little mini off-road camper. I got a whole video of that on my YouTube channel where I built the camper, but I can pull that thing anywhere. It's a lifted off-road camper, and I'll just put that thing behind my truck. I got a Nissan Frontier, and I'll start I'll get on I-20 and go west, and I'll drive until I get tired, and then I'll either pull in a rest area or I'll pull in a Walmart that's right beside the interstate. I'll get there in my camper. I'll go to sleep for 6 hours or 7 hours or whatever, and I'll climb back in and drive the rest of the way. And most of those places are, they're 24-hour drives or so. So, you're looking at 2 days. I don't drive through the night. I'm not that guy. It's too dangerous, especially if you're by yourself. But when I'm with somebody else, I'm worried they're going to fall asleep and I don't end up sleeping. So, I just do the 2-day type deal and get out there, and I have all my scouting done ahead of time. I know the areas that on the map that look good, and I'll pick a couple areas and I'll hit my first spot first. And I try to always get out there a minimum of a day and a half ahead of time, but sometimes I'll get out there as far as like 5-6 days ahead of time, and I'll scout. But in my mind, I'm just hunting. I'm just not carrying my rifle because the season's not open yet. So,
gotcha.
My goal is to scout, hit my spots that I've marked on the map that are good, and then by opening morning, I know where the elk or the deer or whatever are. And my goal is to always punch my tag opening morning, because the way I look at it is I've already been hunting for 2, 3, 4, 5 days. I just haven't had my gun. So once I can carry my gun, my goal is to punch my tag opening morning and load them up and get home. I figure if I've scouted for 3 or 4 days or whatever, and then I hunt for a week, if I haven't killed them in that amount of time, that it's probably not going to happen, honestly.
I hear you. Well, that sounds like a Bassmaster tournament right there. You do a lot of practice, figure out where it's at, figure out what's going on, and then by the time opening day or game time hits, you're out there on them and ready to go.
Right. And I think a mistake that not necessarily all new guys, but just people make in general when hunting out west is they don't scout. I mean, they've looked at the map a little bit, but they just kind of like, oh, we're going to figure it out when we get there and stuff. And they get there and they start hunting open morning. That's the first morning there. And say it's a 7-day season and it takes you 4 days to find the animals, whatever you're hunting. Well, then you only got 3 days to figure out how to kill them, if they're in an area where you can kill them. And that's just, it makes it really tough if you can get out there and put in the legwork, because a lot of times not finding the animal is as important as finding them. If you can X off park spots and
kill and land, okay,
right, then you're narrowing it down, because the elk are in here somewhere. And if they're not there, well, let's hit spot number 2 we got on the map. And they're not spot number 2, let's hit spot number 3 and keep going until you find them. And it might take you a little while to find them, and then once you do, get after it and kill them. And if you're already almost done with your hunt by the time you kill them, then your odds of success are drastically slimmer,
Oh, of course. And then this time of year, once you get into the later times of the year, it starts getting dark early. So if you really think about it, if you burn up all your time trying to find them instead of putting in that extra legwork, that makes total sense.
Yep. Yeah, man, it's they say that 90% of the animals get killed by 10% of the hunters, and I think that it's just preparation and being willing to get after it and not being lazy. And a lot of that preparation takes place at the gym, climbing the stairs, or it'll take place on the computer looking at maps. I look at Onyx, oh my gosh, insane amounts of time. And and just learning everything you can learn and talking to people. You might know somebody that's been out there before, you might not, but you just gotta get after it, not quit. I've killed animals. My biggest bull I ever killed, I found him literally daylight on the opening morning. I knew he was there from scouting, but I killed him 20 minutes in the first light, just a really big bull. And then my wife and I went out there 3 or 4 years ago, and she killed her bull the last day. So you just never know. And that was after I'd scouted for 4 or 5 days, and we killed her bull on the last day. So you just never know. You just got to keep after it and give it your all.
That's nuts. Well, so your bull that you were talking about right there, that's a breakfast bull right there. That's a spend the rest of your time taking your time packing the thing out.
Yeah, well, that's cool.
Hers is down to the wire.
Yeah. Yeah, and that bull that I killed him 20 minutes in the first day, and it took me 3 days to pack him out. And I had 2 guys that I made friends with, helped with 2 loads, and it still took 3 days to pack him out.
Good Lord.
Yeah, it was worth it. He's a monster, but it was brutal. He was in some nasty country that nobody else was going into, and he was on. I mean, it was just, there wasn't really a trail coming out. You had to hike out a creek for 2.5 miles or something like that before you could hit a trail. But those are the type 2 memories. You know, they suck while you're doing it, but once you do it, you get done. Your legs are hurting. You're like, I don't know why I do this. And then like an hour later, you're like, yeah, I'm going to do this again.
Oh, of course, man. I quit golfing, a few years ago, but it's like that perfect drive, like oh man, why don't I play on the PGA? That freaking kind of drive. That's exactly what that sounds like.
Yeah, man. It's pretty addicting.
What was your biggest bull with? Rifle?
Yes, sir. I shot it with a rifle, like 290-yard shot. That's the one I glassed up from 2.5 miles away.
That's cool.
Yep.
That's cool. And go ahead.
I have Onyx on my phone, and then Go Hunt also has maps, and I have Go Hunt maps on my phone, and then I have, Google Maps, and I knew that bull was there, and I knew he was just a stud, and I would open up all those maps and cross-reference them on each other, so I knew exactly the ridge he was on, and then I figured out how to get in there, and I didn't see him for 2 days. I got up there on top of the ridge, and he was right the last place I'd seen him. Opened him when I glassed him up dead, and just waited for him to stand up. Was able to get set up on top of the ridge, like I said, like 290 yards. And once I saw him bedded and I got my gun set up and ranged him, I was like, well, this is over. Once he stands up, I'm going to kill him.
Go ahead, stand up, big boy. This is about to be a wrap right now.
Yep.
That's awesome. Gear-wise, like what do you think are musts as far as gear-wise?
So what I tell people when they ask me about, if we're talking about elk hunting or mule deer, I ask them, is this something that you want to do like on a yearly or bi-yearly basis, or is this something you just want to do one time? You just want to say you killed an elk. And if it's somebody that says, well, I just want to kill an elk, then I tell them, then save up some money and hire a guide and go on a guided hunt, because there's no reason to invest in all the gear if you're going to use it one time. It just doesn't make sense in my mind. And a lot of first-time Western hunters aren't successful. You can be. You definitely can be. Okay, I'm not discouraging anybody, but just I'm a realist, and statistics don't lie. Just a lot of guys, they don't do it their first time. If you only want to do it once, save up, hire a guide, go have a great time, kill a bull. If it's something that you want to do every other year, maybe even every third year, you need to have some good gear. You need to be, the first thing is whatever weapon you're using, you need to be darn good with it, because nothing sucks more than missing. I don't care what anybody says. Everybody can say, well, it's a learning experience and you're going out there to have fun and spend time in nature, which maybe you are, all that, but it sucks to miss. So
amen to that.
Be good, proficient, very, very, very proficient at farther ranges than you're planning on shooting. If you're saying I'm not going to shoot farther than 500 yards in your rifle, then you should go practice at 1,000. Because if you can point that steel at 1,000, then a 500-yard shot is a chip shot. Once you're good with your weapon, you need to have a good pack and a good set of boots. And I'd put those at like both, 2A and 2B, and you can decide which one is, more important. I guess the pack is probably a little more important, but if you spend the money on a good pack, a lot of those have incredibly good warranties. I wear Mystery Ranch, but Mystery Ranch, Kafaru, Exo, Stone Glacier, those are like the 4 packs that I would look at. I probably wouldn't even really look at hardly anyone else. But I would buy a good pack, whatever. Do your research on how big you think you need. Get a good pack, and then spend the money and buy a good pair of boots. Buy a pair of Kenetrex or a pair of Crispies or a pair of Loas or, just a really good pair of boots. And your feet will thank you and your back will thank you with the pack. And then after that, you start dialing in your glass in terms of binoculars and spotter and stuff like that. But a backpack, a good weapon, and boots are, in my opinion, by far the 3 most important things.
Heck yeah. And I'll say I've played around with a few different cheaper backpacks and different stuff like that just for whitetail hunting, you know. And I ended up once I kind of got the I want to elk hunt at some point bug. I went ahead, pulled the trigger. Now it is not cheap, but pulled the trigger and got the Kifaru backpack, and it's nuts, man.
Yeah,
like, it is absolutely nuts how that thing can make 100-pound sandbag really feel like nothing. Like it dissipates the weight. I mean, I am a big dude. I'm 6'5", 250, and it fits me perfect. The lumbar support's in the right place. I can adjust the load lifters, and it makes 100 pounds feel like a normal load.
Yep, and it'll keep it still, stationary. That can be, if you got a load that's slipping all over the place, that's awful. It is not enjoyable.
That's nuts that you say that, because really with the Kifaru bag, with everything locked down in it, I could run if I'm not that crazy, but I could run with 100 pounds in the backpack and it wouldn't move. Like that's a really good point.
Yep. And you can, if you have a pack with a meat shelf or something like that in there where you can put your meat in there, and then you can also carry your gear and your gun and all that stuff. I mean, I shot a big bear year before last, spring bear hunting with a couple buddies, and I packed that whole bear out along with all my gear in one load. And I mean, it was brutal. It was tough, and we had a trail coming out, so I knew I could hike that trail out. But if you are motivated enough, you can carry a ton of weight in those things.
So basically, take your trekking poles, dig them in the dirt, and don't lift your head till you get back to the truck.
Yeah, just keep on grinding and one foot after another, and realize it's going to suck for a couple hours or however long, but then you don't have to do it again.
Breathe, cry, cuss, do whatever you got to do, just make it through it.
That's right. Yep.
All right. So to recap here, you would recommend looking at the Colorado first rifle season.
Yeah. Well,
try to pick. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, if your budget allows it, I would apply in some other states. Like you can apply in New Mexico for about $100, and if you don't draw that, look at the draw dates, because if you have a little money you can spend, then you could apply in Arizona, which is early. Your odds aren't great, but that draw takes place early. Like the results just came out like last week, and then you could apply for another $100 in New Mexico. And if you draw on those tags, you're probably going to have a great hunt. And then if that doesn't work out, you can look at Colorado, but you can, depending on how much money you have that you can kind of throw at it to get your tags, and that's a couple of their options.
Gotcha. So to literally enter into the draw in New Mexico is only $100.
Yeah. So you have to buy a non-resident hunting license, which is like $80 or $90, I think. And then each species is $15. So if all you wanted to do was apply for elk, I think it'd be $105. So I apply for elk because I love New Mexico elk hunting. I've drawn multiple tags out there. I apply for elk. I apply for mule deer out there. I apply for orcs, which is a Gibbs buck, which are from Africa, but they have them wild in New Mexico.
Gotcha.
And then I've applied for some other species in the past. I think this year I'm not going to apply for some of the other ones, but they also have Barbary sheep, aoudad, wild. It's one of the best places on public land for aoudad.
Okay. So look at the other states, check that stuff. Then kind of as a fallback option, look at the first rifle season, Colorado.
That's what I would do if you're a rifle hunter. Yeah.
And then if you don't get drawn for that, I'm a big time bow hunter, and tell me if you think this is an incorrect way to think about this. I'm a big time bow hunter, but I feel like I would be way in over my head if I went archery hunting my first time elk hunting, kind of first time stepping out into that world.
Man, I don't think it would be. You just have to have realistic expectations. Like Wayne went out there in his first year, he killed a bull with a bow, but you need to make sure you can call, and you need to realize that you might bump into some other guys. And you also have to realize that, it's archery hunting. You can't, you need to be within, realistically, most people need to be within 50, 60 yards. And, it's just different. It's just different, If you love to archery hunt, I mean, heck, go archery hunt. That when I was first looking at, starting to hunt all over the place. I wanted to go somewhere and hunt. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I called a guy that does, one of those booking agencies because, I was looking at a guided hunt. I was saving up some money. And I said to him, I was like, man, I want to go hunt somewhere. I just don't know where. And he was like, well, pick what you want to hunt and then call me back, So that's what I feel like. Decide what you want to hunt and how you want to hunt them. And then don't let anybody, me or anyone else, tell you any different. If your goal is to kill a bull with a bow, go out there and bow hunt. If your goal is to just kill a bull, then I would probably gun hunt. But some guys just love to stick and string. And if that's your deal, go do it.
Right on. Okay. I hear you there. So basically, from the calling piece, I'm just going to call Wayne and say, "Hey, you got any free time? You want to?"
Yeah. He might be down with it, man. He might be interested. But like guys go out there and kill bulls with a bow every year. My other friend I was talking about, Ben, he killed his first bull with a bow this year, and it took him, I don't know how many years he's been doing it, 2, 3, 4 years, but he finally got it done. He killed a nice bull too. It's a good bull.
That's cool.
You can do it. You just have to decide what you want to do and prepare and train and do everything the best you can before you get out there. And then when you get out there, just give it your all. Nothing, man. I had a few hunts when I was just starting hunting out west that looking back, I'm like, man, I didn't give that my all. I could have done better. I could have filled that tag and I didn't. And it motivates me now because if I don't punch tag, man, on a good animal, it bothers me now. So, just don't leave anything out there. Your legs will be sore on your ride home and you'll be fine in a week, but just get after it, while you're out there.
Heck yeah, and that's an excellent way to look at it right there. Like deal with the after effects of pushing yourself real hard. Deal with the after effects. Now don't like kill yourself, but
right.
Deal with the after effects after you get back in the truck.
Yep.
Heck
yeah,
yeah.
I would say do that. And one other thing I would say, I know we don't have much time left, but when I first went out west, I did not have any type of SOS device, emergency type device. And there's a few companies that make them. Garmin makes one, and that's what I have is a Garmin inReach. And then there's, the other companies are slipping my mind right now, but there's at least like 3 different companies that make them, and they're kind of important, especially if you're new to it, or if you're not new to it, or especially if you're going solo. And what those devices allow you to do is contact search and rescue or somebody back home if an accident were to happen. My first bull I ever killed, I shot him about 3 miles back, and I was packing him out by myself, and I don't know, it was like 1 a.m. I was on my second load, and I had done like 15 miles that day, and I had like 100 pounds on my back, and I tripped, but I didn't fall. And if I had fallen, I probably have gone down 200 feet down this ridge. And
oh Lord,
once I did that, I was like, I have to get something to notify people. And I was in Idaho, and I almost got bit by about a 5-foot rattlesnake that we were way back in the Frank Church Wilderness. I almost got bit by a rattlesnake. And I actually know a fellow that was in Colorado. I think they were like 7 or 9 miles in 2 years ago. They were working a bull, and he stepped on some pine straw. Wasn't even crazy steep, wasn't anything weird. He just stepped on pine straw. The pine straw slid, and he snapped his leg like 7 miles from the truck. And they had to come in and get him on mules. So if you're going out there, those inReach devices or SOS communication devices are about, I don't know, I think they're anywhere from $150 to $300, and then you have to pay to use them, kind of like a cell phone. My inReach I can turn on when I want and turn off when I want, and it's $60 a month, and I can just text with it just like normal. So like when I'm out there, I can text my wife or text my buddies, just like you would with a cell phone. You just can't send pictures. And then it also has an SOS device or SOS button, an emergency button that you can hit that, and they'll say, "Is this an emergency?" And you say yes, and they will send people.
That's awesome.
It's just really smart to have, especially, if you're going to be hunting back in there a little ways and you're going to be in some rough country.
That's hunting and stuff is awesome, but it ain't worth dying for,
And I carry that thing with me all over, because some of the places I hunt in South Carolina, I hike in a little ways. So I turn that thing on usually in August, and I don't turn it. I just turn mine off, in February. So I run it half the year or a little more once I start hunting all over. And my wife knows that anytime she wants, she can text me, and it'll work anywhere on the planet too. Like I've hunted other countries, and I've used that thing in New Zealand. I use it in Tajikistan. I've used it all over, just texting her and letting her know everything's fine, and just staying in communication with her and some of my friends also.
Well, I now know exactly. I know what I'm going to go look at online whenever we wrap up the podcast here.
Yeah.
And I know we're running short on time. I want to give you a minute here to give some promo for your YouTube channel, your social media stuff. So please, man, the floor is yours. Have at it.
All right. So like Aaron said, my name is Stan Courtnay. My social media, Instagram and YouTube is SCliving Outdoors, and SC stands for South Carolina, but it also stands for Stan Courtnay. And I do everything from brimfish here in South Carolina a little bit to big game hunt all over the country and all over the world. And that's my favorite thing to do is big game hunt. And I get after it really hard, and I do the best I can to make some videos that are enjoyable to watch and fun to hopefully make people feel like they're there with me a little bit. And it's just what I love to do. So I give it all I have. And, I don't know. I just love to hunt. So if you are listening to this and you love to hunt too, I'd appreciate you checking out my videos. And if anyone has any questions about hunting or hunting out west or hunting public land here in South Carolina, I get people reach out to me all the time. And I love helping people out the best I can, as long as the person is motivated to give it their all. And I love helping people out. I don't like it when people ask me where to go. Like, don't ask me for a honey hole. I don't like that. But any just normal tips, I like talking to people and getting to know people that have the same passion I do.
Heck yeah, man. Well, thank you for coming on the podcast. It's been a great chat. I can guarantee you this isn't going to be the last time I'm going to call you and say, hey, Stan, you're going to shoot the crap for a little bit. But guys, make sure to check out his Instagram, give him a follow. If you've got any questions for me or anything you want to hear on the podcast, please reach out. Instagram's always the best way to get a hold of me. And until next time, tight lines and double lungs. Have a good one.
See ya.